It's now 5:30, you can start the meeting.
How you doing, everybody? Joshua Doyle, Chief Building Official. Good to see you all again. It's been 12 months now since our last.
No?
We need to start with the public comment.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So by agenda.
You can open the meeting.
Forgive me, because I'm not, verbiage prior to just, do I read the public comment?
That's great.
Verbatim from the, okay, public comment, option one, members of the public desiring to submit written comments will be allowed to submit their comments to the office of the city secretary. All comments received will be provided to the city council board and or commission prior to the meeting. The first 5 comments received will be read during the public comment or public hearing portions of the meeting. Written email comments must be received by 3 p.m. Wednesday, June 14th, 2023. Everybody clear on that?
So we have no one signed up for the public comment.
Option 2, members of the public desiring to address the city council board and or commission in person with regard to matters on the agenda must complete a request to speak form and give it to the city secretary or designate prior to the beginning of the meeting. Each option available as desired above is limited to 3 minutes. Speakers requiring a translator will have 6 minutes, regardless of the number of agenda items will be addressed. Comments or discussion by the city council board or commission members will only be made at the time the subject is scheduled for consideration. Do we need to disclaim those? Read the disclaimer as well.
Yes.
Okay, the city of Sugar Land reserves the right to remove any written email comments deemed inappropriate or not adhering to the public comment rules outlined in this notice. The city reserves the right to not read any comments containing links for profit sites, advertising, promotion of illegal activity, sexual oriented explicit comments and sites, information promoting discrimination, harassment, political, religious rhetoric, advocacy, or commentary. For questions, contact the office of the city secretary. No member of the public addressed the commission. The minutes. Consider,
Okay.
okay, sorry.
I just want to call you.
Okay, yeah, sure. Sorry.
Well, I need you to read some into this agenda,
Okay,
and you just ask me if there's any public comment. No, just state that there's no public comment, and
Okay.
then you'll go to item 32.
okay. Were there any public comments?
There was no public comments.
Okay, we will now move to item 3, the minutes. For consideration and action on the minutes of June 14th meeting, Ashley Newsome, the interim deputy city secretary.
Yes, that's me.
Okay, so I think item 4, orientation will begin. So,
Make a motion, we need a motion, a first and a second, please.
can I have a motion to begin orientation?
Approve the minutes.
Oh, perfect, sorry. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I said,
Okay, thank you.
And can I get a vote?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
vote,
Vote.
vote.
Need you all to vote, please?
Yeah.
And vote is fine.
All those say yes.
All right.
All those in favor say aye. So do we begin orientation?
Yes, you can move on to the next item.
Item number 4, we're going to begin orientation, which is review of and discussion on purpose, roles, responsibilities, and function of the Building Standards Commission, our function here, which will be given by James Posey, Deputy Building Official, and Nicole Solis, Assistant Director of Environmental and Neighborhood Services.
Well, hello, how are y'all doing? You did a great job, by the way.
Oh,
Great
thank you.
job. Welcome to the Building Standards Commission annual orientation today. My name is James Posey. I'm the Deputy Building Official. I work with Josh Doyle and under Miss Lisa Meyer. The slide, do I do the slides now? Okay. This is the agenda per City Council Board and Commission Policy and Procedures Policy 3000. 9, staff liaison will hold an annual orientation workshop as part of the meeting of the full board. The workshop will address introduction of the members, new appointees and staff, authority and limitations, responsibility under state statutes, city charter and city codes, roles and responsibilities and attendees, policies and rules and procedures, materials or topics relative to the scope or to the work of the commission, legal considerations, open meetings and conflicts of interest. If you have any questions at any times, stop me. I'll put it here. Welcome and introduce. Can we go around and introduce everybody? We got member.
Shivraja Poti.
Nice to meet you, ma'am.
Anna Goldberg.
Mumtaz Qureshi.
Alisa Gomez.
Hakim Puadi. Ravi Arora.
Thank you very much. Commission overview. The commission's authority comes from state law, chapter 54 of local government code. The City of Sugar Land Code of Ordinances, chapter 2, article 3, section 2.53. Commission overview. This is a quasi judicial board that hears evidence, receives testimony, issues orders similar in nature to a court. Decisions only appeal to the state district court. No appeals to city council, zoning board of adjustment. It's the city's only other quasi judicial board. Commission's overview. Commission members are appointed by city council for a 2-year staggered term. 7 members of the board with 3 alternates should have experience training in the building construction and property maintenance. City council appoints a chair and a vice chair annually. Commission overview. Forms of voting. Majority of commissioners have 4. Majority of commission 4 shall constitute a quorum. Members present required to vote on each item unless have a conflict of interest. Attendees expected to attend most meetings. Absentees shall report to staff liaison prior to hearing date. Members missing 3 consecutive meetings is deemed to have automatically resigned. Alternates will serve in the absence of the regular members on a rotating basis. Commission's overview, annual training, Building Standards Commission orientation. Open meetings, acts training online through the Attorney General's website. Ethics training is given by the city attorney, hardest working lady in the city. Executive session to receive legal advice from the city's attorney regarding matters on the agenda. No final action, decision, or voting during closed meeting. Communication is a privilege. It should not be discussed outside of the executive session with the public, commission, or media. City secretary will document by certification, by certified agenda. Commission's over conflicts. Member must abstain from discussing and voting on matters before the commission. A member or alternate has a conflict of interest under state law or city ordinance, believes he or she cannot render a fair and impartial decision in a matter due to personal circumstances. Members or alternates with conflicts of interest must inform the city secretary the conflict prior to the start of the meeting and file a conflict of interest affidavit. Commission's duty. Y'all are here to decide appeals from the determinants made by city staff and application of enforcement of city codes. Adjust unsafe structures, cases arising from dangerous buildings and regulations. Hear appeals regarding the denial or revocation of a residential rental license. Authorize variances from the terms of any building codes adopted by the city. Building codes and variances appeals. The owner may appeal the decision or determine made by the building official or any of the following. The building official may reject or refuse to approve a manner, construction, or materials to be used in the installation or alteration of building structure or service system. Provision of this code do not apply to this case. An equally or good or better form of construction is proposed. The true intent and meaning of the code has been misconstrued or incorrectly interpreted. Consideration of variances is justified when enforcement of the building codes creates injustices. It is contrary to spirit of the purpose of the code, technical requirements of best interest of the public. That is a mouthful, ladies and gentlemen. Dangerous buildings. I'm gonna turn it over to Ms. Nicole Slees.
Hello, everyone. Okay, I'm not going to read all of that because it is a mouthful. But just as a reminder that, some of the duties that y'all have, and abilities that you have is to declare dangerous, to declare a building dangerous, as a public nuisance, and have it vacated, secured, repaired, or demolished. To provide standards for when a property is to be ordered repaired. So whenever you tell them what they need to do, how they do it. A lot of you have already sat through hearings in the past. We've not just told them what we want, but also kind of outlined how that process is to look. And then look at those minimum standards for continued use or occupancy of a building. So you can deem a building dangerous if a wall or other vertical members list. If there is over 33% damage to a foundation or a structural component. If there's an improper load distribution on the floor or the roof. If there is damage by fire or wind, so much so that is to be dangerous to life, safety, morals, or health for the occupants and the general public. If there's dilapidation or decay or unsafe or unsanitary conditions, as we've seen, that can be a lot of different things. So it's very much a case by case basis for y'all to take a look at and determine whether or not that's one of the qualifications. If there's inadequate light, air, sanitation facilities, again, very case by case basis for y'all to take a look at. If there's inadequate facilities for egress in case of fire or panic. If there's more than 2 code violations or a single violation that poses imminent threat. Again, provides us a lot of flexibility in what we present to this commission for consideration. And then if a building is unsecured from unauthorized entry. So you can also deem a building dangerous if it's boarded, fenced, or secured, and it constitutes a danger to the public, even though it's secured from entry. And if the means that were utilized to secure that building just really aren't sufficient to meet that function. So by the time we get to y'all, to this board, we've already done quite a few things. We've already conducted an investigation, gathered that evidence, in most cases tried to get voluntary compliance. We've issued that notice letter calling this meeting. Whenever we are looking at bringing something for your consideration, we'll start polling. Can commissioners meet on this date to have this discussion and that sort of thing? So that's all part of the notice process is making sure that we have a quorum of commissioners to even discuss the specific case. And then we move to the hearing itself, where staff will stand up here and present the history of a property, what we see as appropriate moving forward, and then answer any questions that commissioners have regarding that particular case. And then after all of that, this commission will render a decision. It can be a lot of different things, as you've seen, and also outlining the parameters for how we get there. So it can get very murky whenever we are presenting a case, and we just want to make sure to remind all of the commissioners that we have to stay within the parameters of the topic itself. So we can't we can only discuss things that are specifically related to the regulation of the dangerous buildings, the appeals, and the variances. We can only discuss evidence or testimony provided during the staff presentation. And again, the focus of that discussion needs to be on the property conditions itself, what this commission wants to require of that property owner, and what that schedule looks like. So if someone says, I just don't have the resources, the finances to make these repairs that are being required of me. We can't ask questions about, well, can you qualify for a loan? Or because that is irrelevant to the topic at hand. What we are focusing on solely is the property conditions. Does it meet the requirements as a dangerous building? And what timeline and expectations are we setting for that property to be brought into compliance? Okay. So, on that findings in order, after we've talked about everything and we check down that list, does it meet this element of a dangerous building? Does it meet this element of a dangerous building? Again, staff presents to the commission for consideration different options, and the commission will issue that findings and the order, which outlines everything, providing the timeframes. You vote via Novus. We're not doing that here, but normally these meetings for presenting a case will occur in the chamber. So it's important for everyone, if we have a case that we're going to be discussing, to make sure that you log into your Novus account, because that is the mechanism by which we take vote. And then we file that order with the Fort Bend County City Secretary's office. And we also send out those findings to the property owner, any lien holders, really anyone that's tied to the case that originally received the notice for the hearing itself. And so just going through some examples of what a dangerous building might be, structures that are unsecured, dilapidated, structures that suffered significant fire damage. This property actually it was one of the first cases that we brought before the BFC. Structures with unsanitary conditions or illegal construction. The property at the end was one that we brought to the BSC. We also have, the commission considers issues with our rental licensing program. So we require all rental properties to be licensed by the city if they're offered for rent. Okay, we do exterior inspections annually to make sure that they're being appropriately maintained. And we also do them whenever there's a change in occupancy. So whenever one tenant leaves before another one moves in, the property owner is supposed to call us so that we can schedule that inspection. Now, sometimes we revoke a license based on what we find during that inspection. Sometimes we never even issue it when it comes up for renewal or the initial application based on what we find. So staff does formally notify the property owner of the reason for either denial or revocation, and the property owner has the right to appeal that. And this commission hears that appeal. So some things that would result in a rental license being denied are electrical issues, swimming pool enclosure violations, and swimming pool enclosure violations. So again, if there's an appeal to a license that we either revoked or denied initially, they can appeal and it will be brought before this commission to discuss. So you have a lot of responsibilities, a lot of things to consider, and there's a really big group of employees, city employees, that are here to help you through that process. And some of these faces are familiar, some of them are a little newer, but this is our entire group. So it consists of folks from planning and development services and our building group, code enforcement, legal, fire. It takes a lot of work to put these cases together. And again, we're here to help the commission through those discussions. One other quick thing, in December of last year, we also updated our building codes. So before we used to operate under the 2015 ICC codes, and now we operate under the 21 codes. Okay. Any questions?
No.
Question? Thank you very much.
Yes, item number 5, we're going to move to annual ethics training. So we are going to receive training related to the Sugar Land Code of Ethical Conduct and state laws regulating ethics and reporting responsibilities to city officials. Given by Meredith City Attorney.
Yes, so those of you who haven't met me, I am your city attorney. You didn't see my picture up there because Trisha Dang is gonna be usually your attorney. But, we gambled for tonight and I won, so I get to be here and do this ethics training. You will get your regular attorney at your next meeting. So I appreciate you taking the time to spend with me. I will make this as painless as possible, but I do have kind of a crazy sense of humor and I like to play games, so I am going to invite you to play a game with me tonight. This evening, you're gonna play Cards Against Ethics. So if you took this last year, you probably already know the answers. Good news, next year, I do new games every 2 years, so I have not had a tip yet. If you have a suggestion on a game you'd like to see, I'd be happy to take it under consideration. But as for now, we're gonna play Cards Against Ethics. We're gonna go through the rules, and then you're actually gonna play at the end. So don't get excited and leave, because you're gonna spend some time with me. So what are the objectives of the game today? Like I said, we're gonna give an overview of the Code of Ethics. And because our code requires you to do it, you get credit for that by sitting through this. So who gets to play this game? Members of city council get to play it, members of boards and commissions such as yourself. Every once in a while, we ask former council members and former board members to join us. And there's one provision that applies to future people who want to sit on city council. And I'm gonna go over the entire code, recognizing that not all provisions apply to you, but I don't know your aspirations. Perhaps next year you want to apply for a different board, or maybe you don't want to run for council. I just want to make sure you know what the ground rules are. You can play this game, or if you see a violation, you know what to report. So we have 8 basic rules. You can read them, but I'm going to go through them in much more detail so that you'll remember them. So we're going to talk about conflicts of interest. You have a special economic benefit on an item on the agenda. Let's talk about the rule of 10 and 15. So if it's a business entity on the agenda, so the property is, it's a commercial property owned by ABC Acme Brick. So if you receive 10% or more, or your family member, like your parents, your spouse, or your children, 10% or more of your annual income from ABC Acme Brick Company, you have a special economic benefit in that property and you can't vote on it. And you have 15%. If you own 15% or more of the fair market value of ABC Acme Brick, congratulations, you have a special economic benefit. You also can't vote on that item. We also have the real property, the rule of 25. It should actually be the rule of 2.5. If you own $2,500 or more of the value of that real property, God bless you, you have a conflict of interest and you can't vote. So you're saying, okay, so great, I have a conflict of interest. Well, now what? Congratulations, you get to brag about it on a form filled out and created by the people in the state of Austin. So you file this conflict of disclosure statement, you get to file it with the city secretary's office no later than 5 business days after determining you have this conflict. And once you filed it, we're going to ask that you abstain. Not only do we ask that, the state law asks that you do that. And for fun, because we are home of the Astros, you may know special signs because baseball people do. We're going to ask you to leave the meeting room so that everybody is on the full understanding that you are not telling your fellow commissioners exactly how to vote on something. So, relationships with the vendor. This is more fun around Thanksgiving time when you get to brag, but it does apply all year long. So you get to brag if you receive more than $2,500 or more in the past year from that vendor, and you can't vote on that item goes back to the rule 2.5. And if you're related to a vendor within 3rd degree of consanguinity or 2nd degree of affinity. Now, this doesn't apply to you all because you don't approve contracts, but I don't know, you might want to sit on city council someday and they do approve contracts. So just a preview if that's something you decide you might want to do in the future. So this is a part where I got to a slide a little bit early, but Thanksgiving time, you get to brag about gifts. I've never been bribed. I've been trying for the last 20-something years, but somebody has yet to offer me a gift to do what they want. There's still hope for you. So under state law and the code of ethics, you get to brag to us if you receive a gift from a vendor or somebody who's before you on the board. So if somebody at ABC Acme Brick Company has an item on the agenda and you're looking at his building and they say, you're not going to find my building dangerous, I'm going to give you a special gift. Good news. You get to brag to us about it and I get to be jealous because, like I said, nobody ever bribes me. So lodging, transportation, entertainment, and food. You can get up to $100, actually up to $99 worth of bribes from somebody without reporting it. Once you hit that $100, you get to fill out that form, file it with the city secretary's office, and we all get to sit here and be jealous. Once you fill that form out, we ask that you don't vote on that item. You abstain and you walk out of the room. Now you'll notice there's an asterisk next to that food. That is because if you have the fortune or misfortune, depending on how you view this, of having to actually sit at the table with that vendor and have a conversation with them, you can order dessert and you can get that box to go, because you get up to $500 before you have to brag and tell us about it. So I wish you lots of luck. Hopefully you'll get a Thanksgiving turkey or a gift basket. I myself have never received one, but I hold out hope for you. So there's 5 other little rules we want to talk about. Doing business with the city. If you happen to work on city council, you cannot have a significant business contract with the city. And you say, okay, what is significant? It's $1,000 and it's for the entire term of office. So if you're here for 3 years, stick around $300 a year. If you go for the full 9 years, it's a pretty low amount. It's better just not to do the business with the city. Representations and appearances. You may have heard me talk about what hat you're wearing and when you're wearing it. So because you're a member of a board of the city of Sugar Land, when you're wearing your official BSC hat, you get to tell people, hey, as a BSC commissioner, I think this. You take it off, you're next door, you're writing a letter to the editor, or you're just like spouting off to your neighbors. In my personal capacity as a resident of the city of Sugar Land, I think this. Now, it's not as important to you all to do this as it is like city council or planning and zoning, because they do get to do more exciting things than you all do. They meet much more often than you do. They make a lot more people unhappy than you do. So it is more important for them to remember the hat. But like I said, I don't know what your future aspirations may be. So just remember which capacity you're acting in. Also, representations and appearances, I'm gonna ask, as well as the code, that if you decide to go in front of another board, you're going in your personal capacity, you don't go up there and say, as a member of BSC P&Z, you should vote this way. You cannot go in front of another board wearing this hat, take it off. You can also come in front of your own board, only if it's your property. If you have a conflict of interest because you have a business economic benefit or impact, or you own that property, you can come in front of the board to represent yourself. You do not have to, you have to abstain so that you have to remember which hat you're wearing. Confusing? Going too fast?
Very good.
Makes sense. Okay, perfect. Misuse and disclosure of official information. So James touched on that just a few minutes ago when he was doing his presentation, talked about executive session. So if for some reason this board gets sued and you have the privilege of going into the council dining room, either myself or Trisha Dang, who is your real attorney, and we talk about this lawsuit, we're going to give you attorney-client privilege information. It's confidential. Do not tell anybody about what we talk about. That's a violation. Participation in procurement. So if in fact you do want to run for council someday, just keep in mind that you can't go out to a vendor and say, this is exactly what we want. This is how to circumvent the procurement process. State law tells us how we do procurement. We follow it. If we find out a council member got involved, bad news. That vendor is now disqualified from doing business and they are not able to enter into that contract because they have outside information that was not obtained through the official process. And by the way, the council member also gets in trouble. And then campaign contributions. So people like to sue the city. For some reason, they think that our taxpayers have endless amounts of money and we'll be happy to pay them off. So sometimes they want to try to bribe a council member with a campaign contribution. Council member cannot accept a campaign contribution worth from anybody who's suing the city seeking damages $25,000 or more, excluding attorney's fees and excluding court costs. You cannot buy a settlement with the city of Sugar Land. So I talk fast. And I know you want to read more. So if you want, and you can't sleep tonight, go ahead and check out chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances. You can find on the city's website, and it will tell you even more information than what I just zipped through. And if you happen to have questions, you're free to ask me. You can send me an email, and I'm going to send you a get out of free jail card. So basically, you come up to me and you say, Meredith, I'm thinking I might do this. Is that going to be a violation of the Code of Ordinances? Am I going to get an ethics complaint filed against me? And I'm going to say, well, based on what you've told me, this is what I think is going to happen. And then you get to do what you want to do based on that opinion. If you followed my advice and you do exactly what you say you're going to do, and you get in trouble, you go, ah, ha, ha, ha. The city attorney said it was okay. Now I'm in trouble and not you because you do have a get out of jail free card. So if you decide after I've gone through this and you've read it at home because I went through it very quickly, that you think somebody else might have violated this code and you go, what do? You file a written complaint. You file it with the city secretary's office. It must be within 1 year of the date of either finding out about the misconduct or 1 year of the date of the actual misconduct. And when you file this written complaint, you're going to need to list the date of the occurrence, what item you think they violated in the code, who violated it. And you must have it signed and sworn, and you file that with the city secretary's office. Once they receive it, they send it to me and I look at it and go, yep, that person's subject to the code. Yep, if this misdeed is correct, it's part of the code, signed and sworn, within 1 year, and I send it on, and the ethics board looks at it, and that's a whole nother fun little scenario they go through. And if the ethics board then decides that, yes, after we've gone through all this, that person did violate the code, they can impose some sanctions, starting with the, I should have done it letter, all the way down to a recommendation of removal or recall. You'll see the last one is just a recommendation, because if you're voted in, that's how you get it. You have to be voted out. Council cannot remove themselves, or they can resign, but they cannot, as a group collectively, send somebody on their happy little way. So I went super fast. You're about to play a game. Do you have any questions before you play? You all feel confident? Okay. Now, one of my questions, I've had 100% with one choice, and I'm curious if you pick a different one. So here we go. The purpose of the code of ethical conduct is, and you get to shout out the answer, by the way.
I'm here for the pictures.
Alyssa.
To establish standards of ethical conduct for officials, candidates, for those who do business in the city.
Thank you. All right. The purpose,
The rest of them.
you picked the long one. So the purpose of personal conduct and ethical behavior include blank and blank.
Commitment and fairness.
All right. Anybody else want to play, or is Alyssa the only contestant here this evening? Okay, this is the one I have 100% on. I'm gonna see if y'all pick something different. If you receive a blank valued at over $100 from a city vendor, you must. Okay, but are we going
What's
with
the
the
number
cruise or the llamas?
The llamas.
Yes, you are the first group to pick the llamas. Even the animal advisory board didn't pick llamas. So you will have those all to yourself because everybody else picked the cruise.
Nobody likes the TikTok video.
You know, nobody picked that one. So confidential information obtained during a blank can blank.
Closed executive session cannot be used for your own personal benefit.
If you own property, oh, I didn't tell y'all this part. This is exciting. If you own property within 200 feet from an item on the agenda or for consideration, you must blank and blank.
Abstain, leave the room, file a conflict of interest. Yeah.
Yes, and let me go ahead and explain that one to you because I forgot to do that. So when you have an item presented to you, staff members will get up there and they'll say, a notice was sent to all property owners located within 200 feet of this property. That's what it is, because state law and our code of ordinances seem to think, accurately so, that if you are within 200 feet of that property, you have a special economic benefit in the outcome. So if you do get that card, and I call it a green card, but I know it's not a green card, that's what you do when you send certified mail. But in my mind, everything is certified mail. So if you see that notice that you're within 200 feet, then you have to abstain and tell the city secretary's office about that.
Excuse me,
Yes,
so
sir.
what happens if you forget to respond to the card, that you got property within 200 feet?
If you forget and you show up and you go, oh, that looks close. Well, that's why we also invite the alternates to the meeting so that you can go, oh, you know what, I made a mistake, and you can step down, walk across the street, have Starbucks, and one of the alternates can sit in for you. So if you or a relative will receive a financial benefit from an item on the agenda for consideration, you should blank and blank.
Abstain from participation.
I'm thinking you see kind of like a theme here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's really easy to comply with. Okay, if you have to abstain from voting on an agenda item, you should blank and then blank.
Leave the room way outside.
And actually, you can do all of them. It's just the importance of the order that you do them in. So we're not completely excluding some opportunities for entertainment.
You can say after you leave the room.
Yes, and you can start the dance competition once the meeting's adjourned. So if your friend asks you to use your position on the Planning and Zoning Commission, this is obviously somebody else's board, but I think you'll get the clue here. To get them blank, you must blank.
Decline the request, I guess.
And you can just choose which
Yeah.
the ones you like.
Very nice.
They're all fun. They're all not true examples, but you see how absurd they have to be so that I don't step on anybody's toes. So if you want to file an ethics complaint, it must be blank and blank.
Signed and sworn, filed by the city secretary. Excellent.
Congratulations. Once again, you are all ethical. And you probably won't see me for another year because Trisha will be your assigned attorney. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Can we vote?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Success, success. No, Kelly, yeah.
You just need the time, what time?
Oh,
No, I think somebody's.
somebody's recording the time?
Yeah, we got.
Yeah.
Right, a second ago.
New appreciation for Kelly, man. Felt like I was in third grade again. What's that?